Welcome back. For the benefit of our southern New South Wales listeners who've only been with us a couple of weeks, for the last 10 years run of World of Boats, Nev Howard has been looking after fishing for us. Now, we've had a whole lot of adventures, and Neville has really become a personality on the show. Neville, they tell me you've found a new way of solving the yabby catching problem.
Very expensive way, Chris, but a new way.
But effective?
Very effective.
It sneaks up on them from underneath, doesn't it?
It certainly does that. Funny thing, you know, while we were doing that, the son seen this fish on top of the water. It was a fish this long,
yeah.
And he said, go grab it. And the boys that were doing the dredging jumped in and grabbed this fish and pulled it out of the water, and there it was laying on the...
right?
Yeah, apparently they
bumped it on the head. Dropped the bucket on its head. Oh well. Neville, speaking of fish, you've got a couple of decent. You've had a couple of good catches in the last day.
Oh
or so.
Yes, yeah. Oh, there's some good fish out there, Chris.
Are
Good
there?
fish at the moment. Yeah.
Why would that be?
Well,
Time of the year?
I reckon it's still back. Every fish this year has had a good run.
Right.
Your mackerel, your mullet, your bream.
Yeah.
They're all good, and it looks like this winter's going to be good for the snapper.
Would the rain have anything
Yes,
to do with that?
very much so. Very much so.
It didn't do much else,
Yeah.
very much good, did it?
No, oh no. That is the sort of thing, and all that hot weather, plus all the rain that washes the rivers out and gets all the salt that's embedded into the bottom of the river, cleans all them out, you know.
Yeah.
And yes, all those sort of things help the fishing.
Well, Nev, the thing I wanted to talk to you about today, you've got a brand new boat.
Oh yes.
And she's really quite interesting. She's specialised whilst being versatile, isn't she?
Yes. Chris, I got to build it this way because I'd been out in dive boats and everything seemed to be a hassle on board.
Is that right?
And I said there'll be no hassle on this boat.
Yeah, right.
And I've pretty well cleaned it up too, I think. It's very comfortable.
Well, obviously, just to fill in the background, you put the new jetty in at the shop at Southport.
Right.
And as a result of having that and your involvement in diving,
Yes.
you've put the dive boat on for instruction and training and that sort of thing, and also for excursions.
Yes.
And it's working well?
Yes, it's working real well. It also goes on fishing trips too, you know.
Right, so so
Glenn
it's
wouldn't
versatile.
let me get away with that.
Right.
It had to be a fishing boat also.
I guess really the feature of the boat that strikes you when you first look at it is the island down the centre of the cockpit. Just tell us how that works, Nev.
Well, the whole idea of it is to keep everything in one place. So
Because
the
you've got a lot of
diver-
paraphernalia, haven't you?
Yes,
You've
well,
got-
when the diver gets on board, first thing he does is put everything in the under seat locker.
Right.
He bolts his bottle plus the BC and just puts it in and blocks it along, bolts it into place there. Then he can sit in front of it and
be
everything
comfortable.
everything is comfortable and in its place.
So you haven't got flippers and goggles and regulators and jackets and all that
You've
sort
got
of
nothing
leg
over
belts
the floor.
laying around the
Yep.
floor. How many divers will she handle?
Well, I don't like to say this, but 13.
13. That's a good number.
But it's surveyed for 8+2, which is
Right.
8 divers and 2 crew.
And 2 crew. Now she was plated up by Stesco.
Right.
And that's a method of construction. In the last week or so we've been looking at the way in which Stesco build their aluminium production line
Yes.
dinghies, but we haven't yet gotten into looking at plated boats, and we haven't done that for many years anyhow. It's a very interesting way of building boats. Firstly, it gives you a very strong structure, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah.
And
Very
secondly,
strong.
and most importantly, particularly in the case of your boat, it allows you to build exactly the boat you want.
Yes, exactly.
So what did you do as far as fuel's concerned? What sort of capacity she got?
She got 430 litres,
Right.
which gives us a good range.
Yeah.
They're built in for survey. They've got to be above floor.
Right.
But that's these sides here.
They're built in down the
They're
down the
built in
sides.
down the sides.
Yeah.
Gives us a very good range, which means we can hit, say, Flinders Reef, which is 60 mile away,
Yeah.
without having to refuel anywhere.
Right, so you get
there
there
and
and
back, no worries.
And she's got a fully self-draining floor.
Oh yes, she's fully self-draining. Well, of course, when divers come aboard, they bring a lot of water with them.
Yeah.
And if it's not self-draining, well, you just can't get rid of it. You've got bilge pumps going and all the rest of it.
Speaking of coming aboard, you've got a ladder there with a
Yes.
transom door, so they can climb up that ladder.
Well, that's
even.
specially designed too.
Yeah.
They can climb up that ladder with their flippers on.
Right.
So that they just walk straight up like Donald Duck up into the boat, and you know,
Yeah.
everything's cool.
Take the flippers off, put them in the lockers,
Yes.
sit down and take the rest of the gear off.
Yep.
Excellent. She looks unusual, Neville. She's
Yeah.
all cockpit, isn't she?
It's not a pretty boat, let
No.
me say that.
But she's functional.
But it's functional, yes.
The cockpit's way up forward. What, 200 horsepower on the back?
175 actually,
175.
yeah.
And what sort of speed does that give you?
Well, it gives me 26 knots at 4,000 revs, which
is
is
all you
very
can.
good. Oh yeah, you can't do that at sea anyhow.
Covers a lot of ground.
Oh yes.
In a
yes.
relatively short
My
time.
word.
Well, Nev, I'm going to look forward to perhaps coming out, particularly on a diving excursion.
Oh
with you,
yes, yes.
and just
we'll do
see
that.
just see how all that works. That'd be really interesting.
Yes, I'll show you my playground now.
Will you? Okay. All right. Well, we'll join you in your playground the next week or so.
Sure.
Thanks, Neville.